What is up, everybody? This is John with Archer Film. I was really looking forward to this movie. I feel like I start every video like that nowadays, but I really was. Ever since The Witch, I have anticipated everything that Eggers has done. And since The Witch, I have been disappointed with every single offering. This movie is no different. Although I felt The Witch was a unique story told with a bleak authenticity that marks his film style as he weaves horror and allegory together to create a compelling narrative and an interesting theme, I feel like he's now just making his versions of other movies. The Lighthouse, it was good, but it felt familiar. I know there was another Lighthouse film in 2016 of the same name that had a kind of similar tone. And I didn't see it, but the reason why The Lighthouse felt familiar is because it's obvious where a story goes when you have that kind of a setting. Two guys, lighthouse in the middle of nowhere, madness ensues. Like, the obviousness is what made it boring to me. It wasn't a bad movie. The performances were great. It was just boring because there was no surprises for me. Then he made The Northman, his Norse version of Conan, basically. A revenge story. Again, authenticity's there. The bleakness is there. Characters are great. Acting is great. But it was just a revenge story. And that was even more boring to me because revenge stories saturate the market. Every action movie is a revenge story, basically. And there's nothing more boring than that as a theme. We get it. Revenge darkens the soul, etc., etc. It's been done a million times. And what I'm sensing, aside from The Witch, is his movies are good for people who've not seen that many movies because they all feel derivative to me. And this is not a knock, it's just an observation. Like, I love what he does, the detail and the tone that he creates, but I need more out of a story. So, now we have Nosferatu, a literal remake of the 1922 film, which I've seen. It's fantastic. It's the same story, exactly, even using some of the same visuals, like the shadow of Orlok's hands on the walls. That's because it's the same story as that, and also the same story as Dracula by Bram Stoker. Now, anyone who has seen the Coppola version of Dracula from 1992, they know the story inside and out, and I've seen that movie a million times, so yeah. It's such an iconic story, Dracula in general, that when you watch Eggers' Nosferatu, there are literally no surprises to the storytelling. Like, in Coppola's version, he uses very dramatic, very surreal, very creative ways to tell his story, from the costume design and the makeup to the over-the-top, like, sets and the, like, overly operatic acting. And honestly, Dracula, played by the greatest living actor, Gary Oldman, is so much fun to watch and imitate. Eggers adds his brand of bleakness and authenticity to Nosferatu, to the sets, to the clothing, to the era, and it's great. But the story is the same. The performances by Lily Rose Depp and Bill Skarsgård are fantastic. Skarsgård's Orlok is just very unsettling and spooky, and he just disappears inside of it. You know, he's fantastic as the Count, but the problem is understanding the motive for the Count. Like, I get Lily Rose Depp's motive, but not the Count's. Like, in Coppola's version, Dracula is in love with Mina. You know, she reminds him of his humanness that has been lost a long time ago. You know, and this casts his spell on her and vice versa. You know, I've crossed oceans of time to be with you. There's a grand romanticism to it, his lost love. Now, I felt a lot recently that we were coming to the end of an era, the end of the era of romantic love, maybe 1,000-year era, basically, a once dominant force in plays and literature and songs and films, you know, from Shakespeare to Jane Austen to all the modern stuff. And it feels like romance in general and real romantic love has been destroyed by, you know, social media, the practicality of capitalism, modern cynicism, whatever else, cultural changes, and this weird, like, modern feminism where women claim to not need or want men in any capacity. You see it a lot in film. You know, the kick-ass independent woman is turned into the woman who doesn't need a partner for anything at all. and that includes romantic love. Like most films, I like to imagine what I think the filmmaker is trying to say. Now, the really smart ones can lace in some social commentary into the narrative, and this is my favorite part of filmmaking. Like, what is the filmmaker trying to say? So, is Eggers commenting on the modern world here, and what's he trying to say by doing so? Well, we have the real estate, theme at play. The real estate agent, played by Simon McBurney, is the tool of the super wealthy Orlok, right? The old money, and he's literally sucking the blood of anything around him like a parasite. All right, we got the real estate agent parasite, check. We have the poor working man in Thomas, Nicholas Holt's character, who thinks he can get ahead by kissing the ass and genuflecting for the rich count. And we have the count himself, who destroys the entire town by buying an old house and moving in. Sounds like BlackRock to me, institutional investors. Orlok destroys everything around him. It makes sense. He's a grotesque bloodsucker with no empathy for humanity at all. It sounds like those institutional investors. He doesn't change and turn all handsome like Oldman did in the Coppola version after killing and sucking someone's blood. He stays just this horrible, grotesque creature. So is Eggers making a statement about the super wealthy, old money, and how they poison the masses with their desires like a plague? I mean, it works. Otherwise, the movie is just a bleak and authentic version of a very familiar story. But, I like my take on it. Anyway, I liked the movie. It was good. It's just I don't need to watch it again. And unfortunately, that's been the trend for the last two of Eggers' movies. All right, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for listening.